discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a registered broker-dealer, member FINRA, SIPC. Fixed insurance is offered through various independent insurance companies. Cambridge does not offer tax or legal advice.
Welcome to the SA Update. I'm your host, Mike Schuster. Each episode, we dive into meaningful conversations and timely topics designed to empower our communities and clients. From financial insights to real-life confidence, we're here to help you stay informed, inspired, and ready for what's next. Today, we're blessed with the Chief of Police of Grand Island, Kevin Denney. Kevin, thank you for joining us today.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. Kevin, last year you were grateful to help us out at a seminar we had for all of our clients. We wanted to turn this into a podcast on cybersecurity and people being frauded financially. And you did a great job for us. So thank you again for coming to talk about this today. So I want to keep this pretty high level from what you see happening in the police department. And really our goal on our podcast is to help inform our clients and the community and help make better decisions. And this is really a preventative subject. So,
well, it's highly needed too, because what we're seeing year over year is an increase in cyber attacks and fraud issues. And so people are losing not just thousands of dollars, but sometimes their whole life savings. And we're talking millions of dollars for businesses.
Yeah. So what are some of the key deterrent strategies that you see with people and just protecting their personal information, whether it's computer or even their physical information?
Yeah. Well, we're all guilty of some of these things. So not leaving your passwords out where people can see them.
Yeah.
That's a big example. You know, some of these things, most of the cyber issues that we have, most of the fraud issues that we have are human related. And some they get an email in and they respond to the email with some sensitive information. And so making sure that you're running all of these things through filters, if you get a suspicious email in, and ask some questions, ask people that may be involved in this, ask your IT department if you're part of a business. If you're an individual, don't leave your passwords out on the refrigerator. Don't just leave your passwords somewhere on your phone where people can get them. Make sure that you're guarding those things, those passwords, and that you're involving yourself in the dual authentication as well. And even involving somebody sometimes that's very trusted. If you're getting forgetful, if you're getting up there in age, maybe involving somebody that you've trusted for years and years to help guide you and make sure that they're a secondary filter for some big financial decisions that you're thinking about making.
Yeah, it's interesting. You just said something that's important there. We said a lot of things, but the main thing was that dual authentication. One thing we're seeing in our industry right now is the dual authentication becoming more and more prevalent. And I know customers get frustrated with that. However, the flip side of it, which is phishing, what you said, and when you click on the wrong thing, usually the criminals don't get your dual authentication. They only have, what is not dual authenticated. So that's a great point you just made there.
Right. And so they're cracking the code to the individual or to the business a little piece at a time. So if you start replying, they may not get the whole vault combination per se, but what they're going to get is another N and be able to use that to influence people, either individuals or people in the business or corporation, to give them more information. Yep. And then they get further in, and then finally they're able to drain some accounts.
So let's talk about the who for a second. Who do you see within the police department when you're responding to these things, or who's most at risk?
Most at risk are going to be your kids and your elderly people, but we're all at risk for one way or the other, because what we're seeing is that a lot of these attacks, these fraud attacks and cyber attacks, are getting very sophisticated, and they're also using AI as part of their components. So sometimes they're able to manipulate the context and reply and keep you on the phone, or keep the emails going back and forth. So you really think you're talking to an individual, and right now you're talking to AI. But children and elderly are more at risk, but we're all at risk for sure.
So let's double click into the AI thing, because that's something that's evolved probably since the last time we've done this. Are you starting to see, and this is a question that honestly we didn't prepare for, are you starting to see where people are getting the phone calls from AI and it's a loved one, or they're pretending to be a financial institute? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, if you talk about what's a successful fraud for some individual, say an elderly person, the ability to keep that person on the line and make them have conversation with you. They may be alone and not have a lot of visits from family members or things. So keeping them on the phone is easy if they're lonely. And they think they're talking to a person, but sometimes now more and more they're talking to an AI or a bot that's manipulating conversation and replying to them in order to get to the end result, which is to have them either put money into Bitcoin or send money somewhere and use their accounts to facilitate this. And once you transmit that into digital currency, then we have a lot of difficulty in getting it back. You talk to the FBI or federal sources.
Yep.
Once that stuff goes into a digital currency, into a crypto wallet, you're talking, if you're aware of it and if you engage the law enforcement component, you're lucky to get 15 or 20% of that back.
Yeah. And you said something earlier that was really, really important, and that is trusted advisor. And one thing that I can stress to anybody that our viewers today is make sure that you're, especially if you're elderly, you have a trusted, or you're vulnerable, have a trusted advisor, because one of the, really 90% of that can be held with, people on the front lines talking to humans. And that's why our firm gets to know people, is that so that we can help in those cases. If we see something out of the ordinary, or in this case too, when people travel abroad, a lot of those cyber attacks happen when people are in the airports or the old fashioned way, right? Breaking in their mail and getting their mail, right?
Yep. Mail fraud, burglaries as well, seeing things on refrigerators or just out in the open. People are at risk in many different ways. And so you just have to, unfortunately, have a higher level of awareness and suspicion when something looks out of place. And we say if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
Yeah.
And so, if you're suspicious about it, then ask some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's close on this. Protective measures. We talked about the trusted advisor. What are other things that you see, or that you and your department talks to people about for protective measures when you go out in community and do these kind of things? We
do a lot of proactive conversations with people in the community. And one of the things that, again, what you should be aware of is your password. So if you have a common password for a lot of different areas, a lot of different, access to different accounts and stuff, be aware of that, and don't make it something that's too simple. Unfortunately, it's frustrating to have your password change or whatever, but figure out what a very type of confusing password is. You can auto-generate the passwords if you want to. So having a difficult password that's not something related to, what your life is like, or a very common thing that's common to you, it can be cracked pretty easy. Your birthday, for example, And so that's number one. And then the dual authenticate is another one. And then also make sure that, again, you hide those things as best as you can, and you encrypt hopefully where you hide them as well. But the big thing is too, as far as the fraud, as far as a lot of the emails scams go, is when people get these things in, if it looks suspicious, make sure that you don't reply and that you engage those sources, either a trusted relative, or if you're in a business, your IT department, finance department, to look this thing over before you send the PO out, or before you convert your money into cryptocurrency.
And completely, I'll tell you this, one thing that we know is we also dual authenticate here above a certain amount of money, and we obviously keep that private, the money that we are calling and talking to people about above a certain amount, because we want to make sure that we're double checking that, because it's, like you just said, it's hard to get that money back. So.
Well, and I would say on top of that, when you have a financial advisor, that's not just somebody who's telling you where to put money, that's a relationship.
Absolutely.
And so, and that means that relationship should be based on trust.
Yep.
And that's another thing that's kind of more of a subjective thing that we talk to people about, that you should, number one, trust somebody that you've trusted all your life in your family. But if you've had if you're building a relationship, if you have a financial advisor that you trust, then you've got to trust them that they're going to manage your money properly. And if they come back with questions on where is this money going or why you want to do that, that should raise some concerns for you, because your financial advisor should have your best interest at heart.
And Kevin's not getting paid to say that. And I will put the plug in for a making sure you're using a fiduciary advisor, also a CFP, which is a certified financial planning professional, is always good too from that aspect.
Absolutely.
Kevin, thank you again for being a guest on our podcast today. Thank you for everything you and your team are doing in the community. You're very visible. You're very proactive in everything you're doing. So great leadership by you and your team in our community here in Grand Island. So for Kevin Denney, I'm Mike Schuster, and thank you for tuning into this podcast.
Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a registered broker-dealer, member FINRA SIPC. Fix Insurance is offered through various independent insurance companies. Cambridge does not offer tax or legal